Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, MSPs were allegedly shocked at the low level of return from the money invested in the Scottish National Investment Bank. £460 million of public money was invested, and they've returned only 10 million. That is a shockingly low rate of return. Had they not actually created this bank and just took the 460 million and shoved it on the, say, stock market, not even in a risk, just shove it in funds or something for that period, they should have expected about 26 million or so, 28 million back. Easy. And yet they only managed 10 million, a shockingly low return. Why? Is it because it's organised and run by the SNP and their cohorts of morons? Or is it just been that they've been very unlucky? No, morons all the way. Let's have a look at this and see why all that money has been lost. Here goes. Right, before we get into this, I'm just going to say I'm not going to be going into the world of high finance, telling you how stock markets work, returns of investments, and etc, etc. But there is just a very brief overview right away. I said about money lost, and that's simple. It's just simple maths. If you take £460 million, which is what they had, and you invest it, and let's say you put it in at a 5% return on the stock market, which is easily and safely achievable, you would have got back in a year £23 million. Now they've invested that same 460 and they've only got back £10 million. Now what that actually means is they've lost £13 million. It's the opportunity cost. That's what they could have had they invested it elsewhere. And so while you could say, yes, they've made a profit of 10 million, that's what they have made, but at the cost where they could have made 23 million, and therefore it is a net 13 million loss on possible investment return. So it really is a loss rather than a cost. On top of which, of course, with inflation running at about 8%, you've got to take a further 8% off that, which would be about 40 million in terms of what it's downgraded by the inflation rate going up. So you've actually lost the 13 million on the investment, plus maybe another 40 million on the downgrading of the money because of inflation. So you're looking at a 50 odd million pounds loss like that. This is not a wise move for a country that is so always short of cash. And you've just pissed 50 million away because of poor understanding of economics. But this is again what we've said time and time again. The SNP are completely economically illiterate. But there you go, that's that. I'm not going to get into the high finance and what you need to do there and everywhere. But it's just sort of simple top level stuff, Finance 101. Anyway, MSPs are shocked as the SNP founded bank confirms only £10 million return on £460 million of public cash handed out. That is a terrible rate of return. Now, the Scottish National Bank officials were grilled by MSPs at Holyrood with their claim that they could make £1 million back on their £9 million funding for doomed Circularity Scotland. This was questioned by Tory MSP Edward Mountain. You are doing very well if you can get, an 11% return on an investment like that in a year? I don't bloody think so. Oh, look, there's Commander Ed Straker, head of Supreme Headquarters Alien Defence Organisation. If you don't know who Shadow is, you've missed out on something massive. But I suspect a lot of you do. Certain age group. There's a certain age group. UFO, 1970. About then. Anyway, Ed Straker, he really is. Anyway, MSPs on a Holyrood committee were left shocked after the SNP founded public bank admitted they'd made back only 10 million on its 460 million taxpayer funded investments so far. Terrible return. Awful return. Indeed, it does strike you as being almost suspiciously low, as in, is there any kind of criminality going on? Ultra low loans made to people with a vested interest, that sort of thing. Anyway, officials from the Scottish National Investment Bank, the SNIB, faced a grilling on Tuesday morning. When I was growing up, tangent time, when I was growing up, We used to have a hot water heater, and if you wanted a bath, you had to make sure that it was all there, because normally you just kept the lower half. And if you wanted a bath something, you had to turn on the switch to give you the full hot water tank. So you turn it on, wait half an hour, whatever, it was hot, and then you could go and have a bath. And the little switch, we used to call it the SNIB. Make sure the SNIB is up if you wanted a bath. I don't know if it's just me, if anyone else calls those little switches on hot water heaters the SNIB. But anyway, there we go. What's ironic is, of course, in this case, the SNIB is in hot water, not providing the hot water. See what I did there, eh? I tell you, I don't throw these things together, you know. I got plans. Anyway, Chief Executive Officer Al Denham, who was appointed earlier this year after a lengthy recruitment process, not from somewhere within banking, it seems, also admitted they had estimated that they would only be getting back about 1 million of the 9 million it invested into doomed Circularity Scotland. So that's not a £1 million return on investment. That's a £1 million return after investing £9 million. You're not getting 10 million back, the 9 you invest plus your return. You're only getting £1 million back. That's 8 million loss before you... That 50 odd, we're up to £60 million loss now, aren't we? It gets worse. 60 million... That's a lot of doctors and nurses, isn't it? We previously told how the bank had been scrutinised over handing out the money to the Deposit Return Scheme operator, despite the Scottish Government not yet receiving full permission to run the recycling project. It was eventually collapsed by Lorna Slater after the UK Government offered a UK internal market exemption, but only if Glarf was excluded. Now, if they signed off on that before it was given permission, then that's down to them, not down to the magical SNP government, magical Scottish government. That's down to the individual people. Let's send them the bill. Let's send this £9 million bill to the likes of Lorna Slater, to Humza Yousaf, to all of those involved. And say, oh, God, you have to sell your houses and everything. We need that money back. We need it back quick, so sell your house and make them pay, surely. Anyway, it led to Circularity Scotland plunging into administration, as we know, blah, blah, blah. We know the whole history. Anyway, he said, what we're seeing at the time was a positive backdrop, and it turned out there was nuances in the Internal Market Act. It was a new act which had been developed, and in some ways it hadn't been tested. And one of the ways it hadn't been tested is it was run by morons in Scotland. Nobody thought that when they did this, that the people up in Scotland would be that stupid. Because obviously nobody in their right mind would be that stupid. What they're forgetting, of course, is you've got the SNP and the Greens. Yes, filled with people that stupid, as we know. Anyway, Mr. Mountain questioned whether... I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the name. The Mountain. I've seen Game of Thrones. Anyway, Mr. Mountain... That's Edward Mountain, is it? He doesn't look like the Mountain, does he? Anyway, Mr. Mountain questioned whether the £1 million estimate was actually an overestimation, considering the fact the body has no real assets it can sell. And the fact that usually creditors get second choice after HMRC. 1 million is quite a high rate back for an investment of £8 million that's been liquidated, because there aren't any assets. Administrator's fee can be quite high. I would suggest respectfully. So you'd be interested if you get £1 million back. I suspect they might not get any back. None at all. In which case, that's the whole 10 million down the Swanee. It was also pointed out that the SNIB had made almost a £20 million loss. So that, where did we get to? 60 million, and now they've made another 20 million. That's 80 million loss. So before you even start, you're at 80 million. 80 million loss. And this is a bank set up by the SNP to administer the things the SNP want to do. And it's made an £80 million loss. There's probably the only bank in the world making that kind of loss that isn't dealing with stocks and shares. Obviously, your investment banks make losses like that, but they're dealing with trillions of dollars a year, buying and selling and things like that. And so, yes, but just set up as an investment bank for the purposes of investing in capital, you should never be making a loss. Who's running this? Which moron is signing off on this? Take your pick, they're all morons. Anyway, he later admitted they'd forked out 460 million in order to receive that money, which led to a shocked reaction from MSPs. He said it's not a great rate of return. He said, if I gave a bank 460 million with a base rate of 5%, what would be my return be? Well, we know it would be £23 million. He said it would be more than that, 10 million. He said, Mr. Denham responded that the money was income on the income, so it was still a profit, but only a 2% one. 2% profit. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. And there he is. Get rid of him. If he's in charge of that bank, He needs to go. You need to get rid of Ed Straker and get someone in who's actually, worked at a bank before, instead of being the head of a film studio and also an organisation that defends us from alien beasts. Anyway, that shall come up. If that man can take 460 million and lose 80 million of it, it makes you wonder why he got the job. And certainly if he was working in a commercial bank, he'd have been given £2 million and told to sod off. Little golden handshake, thank you very much for your help, now bugger off and never work in banking again. That's how it works. But this is government, of course. All they do is go, yeah, never mind, good old boy. We'll just tax the workers a bit more. God, it's awful, isn't it? So never employ Ed Straker. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, we'll round off here. Finish this video. Just a never-ending level of it, isn't there? No, is it me, or is it just too much to ask that one time, just one time, when they get someone to do a job, they can get someone who knows what they're doing, who has experience in that field, give them a job to do, let them do the job, and stop interfering? I think that might work. It's radical, I know, getting someone who actually knows what they're doing to do something, but hey, might stop them looking like complete utter knobs. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll speak on the next video, and until then, stay safe, stay well, and just don't trust the Scottish National Investment Bank with your money. Whatever you do, don't stick it under your bed. It's got to be safer. Bye.